Edge Impulse takes care of the heavy lifting, so I can focus on the fun parts of machine learning.
I use Edge Impulse because it automates all the process.
Edge Impulse makes building machine learning model ridiculously simple.
Edge Impulse makes it easy to go from raw sensor data to production-ready models at the edge.
Edge Impulse lets me jump right into building cool stuff, like brainwave-controlled robots and smart liquid sensors.
It simplifies the process of collecting data from sensors, building models, fine-tuning models, and deploying to a whole variety of edge hardware.
From data collection to deployment, all in one intuitive platform.
And I even use it to teach students how to sort objects with a robot arm. It's hands down one of my favorite tools.
To make AI easy for anyone, anywhere.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, wherever you are. Welcome to Imagine Innovators. We have an incredible lineup of sessions and speakers planned for you today, covering a wide range of topics in Edge AI. So before we dive into the agenda, a quick note on the Q&A. We encourage you to ask your question in the chat throughout the presentations. Our team will be monitoring the chats and will do our best to answer your questions in real time. Additionally, except for the main stage sessions, all the other tracks will feature a dedicated Q&A session at the edge of each presentation, so you'll have the chance to ask your questions. The most popular questions will be answered directly by the speaker. Now, let's take a look at what we have in store for you today. Our agenda is packed with insightful panels and presentations and workshops across 4 tracks. Please note that these tracks will be running simultaneously, so don't worry if you want to attend 2 sessions that are running at the same time. They will be recorded and available on demand after the events. Now, on the main stage, where we have the presentation, the panels, podcast, we'll kick off the day with Zach's welcoming keynote. I'm going to introduce Zach in a few minutes. Then it will be followed by a panel covering the Edge AI use cases with an incredible lineup of speakers. This will be followed by another panel covering the frontiers between generative AI and Edge AI with industry experts and academia persons. Then recorded last week when I was in San Diego, a video podcast with Mani Singh covering the Edge AI at Qualcomm, what it means, what tools are available for developers. Then we'll have Amir Sherman doing the keynote on the evolution of the Edge AI semiconductor ecosystem. And finally, Jan will close the day with his keynote. On the beginner track, we'll have a very easy getting started with the Edge Impulse. So basically all you need to know to kick off a project. Then I'll do a session covering the dataset best practices. Datasets are the fuel of any Edge AI project, so how you can handle your datasets properly. We'll then have an introduction of Edge ML Ops by David Tischler, and then we have a friend from Zalmotech that will be covering a session called Smart Sensors for Smarter Robots, basically how you can improve robotics through real-world understanding using Edge AI. On the ML practitioner tracks, so this track is great for you if you're already familiar with machine learning. We'll start the day with how to fine-tune a custom model architecture. So if you want to bring your OV5 weights or architecture and then train it with your own data, we'll have a session covering FOMO AD, so our visual anomaly detection. This is great. You'll love it. A DSP, then another session covering the DSP for feature extraction, what it means, how cool is digital signal processing, and how it can ease the training of your neural networks. And then the last one on this track will be synthetic data and AI labeling. So this is a very trendy topic. I really recommend you to attend. And on the last track, it will be around how to run your Edge AI models on the edge. So the first session will be covering how to update your model on the edge from our friends from Foundries.io. The second session will be around Edge AI milliwatts to value. What does it consume to run ML workloads on device? This is important when you want to scale your projects and go into production. It will be followed by a topic called From TinyML to GenAI at the Edge. Here we'll cover model cascading, those trendy topics as well. And finally, how you can run your ML workload on Android using Wear OS. Owen will be covering that, giving you a cool example on how you can do that. Now, we also recently opened up a Discord channel to create more proximity with all of you. There you'll be able to find the latest news from our product. We'll be running contests, sharing projects from the community. It's also a place for students and teachers to exchange tips and learning materials and much more. So we'll put the link in the chat. Feel free to directly join Discord if you haven't done so, or just join our Discord server if you're already a Discord user. We'll be adding new feature updates, etc. So I'm really looking forward to see you there. This will be exciting. Now, before we introduce our first speaker, Zach, I'd like to give some exciting news. We are going to make some significant changes to our community plans. Developers are going to love the new features and benefits. So stay tuned for Jan's closing keynotes, where we'll officially announce these updates. Exciting, you'll have much more things in hand, so stay tuned and watch Jan's keynote. Now, I want to introduce someone very special. It's my great pleasure to welcome Zach Shelby. He's our co-founder and CEO of Edge Impulse. Zach is a visionary in the field of Edge AI. His leadership has been instrumental in driving innovation and making Edge AI accessible to all developers around the world. So Zach, thank you a lot for being here with us today. We're honored to have you kick off the day. Now, Zach, ready to go? The floor is yours.
Thank you, Louis. Hey, I'm happy to kick it off and really excited to be here speaking into so many amazing developers from our community. This is really what we dreamed about together with Jan when we founded Edge Impulse. We had our hands deep in AI tooling, machine learning for microcontrollers at ARM, and it was so difficult to use, right? We were really proud about the cool stuff we could show, but it was almost impossible to use the tools to train real models, right, with real data, and then deploy them to actual silicon. So we founded Edge Impulse exactly for this purpose. How can we democratize the tooling, democratize the access to data, make data collection, model training, and then that testing and fine-tuning and finally deployment to lots of different silicon? How can we make that really easy? And so I'm going to talk about that journey, where we came from, where we're going, and then a lot of exciting things that we're doing now that we're part of Qualcomm. So in the almost 6 years that we've been doing Edge Impulse, right, just over 5 years since we launched the platform for all developers, we've now grown to be the largest Edge AI development platform in the world. So Edge Impulse today is used by 185,000 developers and growing very quickly. Almost 500,000 different machine learning projects have been created. And the cool thing is that those projects are all custom, right? We don't believe in just having a model zoo of pre-trained models, and that's just going to solve your exact problem in your industry. Of course not. That's a cool demo, but model zoos really don't solve the whole problem. So these are projects that people have created with their own data. And I think that's a really important thing here. As you see, as we go through the Imagine Innovator Day, you're really going to see how the tooling and the guidance that you're getting from experts helps you use your own custom data, the models that are the best in class, but then training that with your own data to make something unique. So we want everybody to be the expert in Edge AI here and create your own solutions. The beautiful thing about the community we've built around Edge Impulse is this is everyone from the leading largest enterprises in the world. So some of the enterprise customers that we work with day in and day out here, through to professional developers who are taking AI into use in their own toolkit to students, right, who are just learning how to do engineering, right, with the newest tools. And we want to make sure that students learn how to do Edge AI, right from school. So that entire journey of developers through to professionals and enterprises is covered at Edge Impulse. And that's something we're going to keep investing in heavily. Why do we care about this, right? Why does Edge AI matter? Now, there's of course a lot of hype around AI more broadly, right? And we'll talk about Gen AI and how does that Gen AI and Edge AI world meet. But there's something below the hype, right? Hype is never something on its own, right? And the thing that's happening underneath and why AI is so important, right? Why that hype is something that we're excited about is that we're only at the very tip of the iceberg in the deployment of machine learning in edge computing, right? We're at maybe around 10%. We were at 5% in 2022, maybe 10, a little bit more now. And by 2026, we think we're already going to be at 50%, right? So we're rapidly growing to hit half of all edge computing deployments using Edge AI. And that's important because it means that we still have a lot of space to grow. We've grown very quickly. We still have a lot of space to grow. So this is the area that as an engineer, right, as a developer, you want to have this in your toolkit, right? So at Edge Impulse, our goal is to help you, right? Help make sure all developers have access to Edge AI tools. Now, we recently announced at Embedded World this year that Edge Impulse is being acquired by Qualcomm. And this is super exciting. It means that everything changes in the sense that Qualcomm gives us a lot more resources to invest with developers. We'll have a cool announcement coming later by Jan. Invest in new technologies. So the work that we're now doing in Gen AI is made possible because we're part of a bigger organization with the resources to do that. But at the same time, nothing changes. As you probably noticed, we're still Edge Impulse. We're still the same brand at the same place, doing the same thing for the developers and for our customers. We're just able to do that better and bigger. And the vision around doing this as part of a bigger company and a bigger ecosystem is to power the whole ecosystem, right? It's not enough to just have a bunch of cool dev boards supported on Edge Impulse. We have to think bigger. We have to think gateways, trackers, appliances, wearables, robots, cameras, cars, right? All these things need to be powered by Edge AI, and we need to make it easy for developers to deploy those AI workloads into any class of device. So the direction we're going with Edge Impulse is really enabling devices that are more complete, off the shelf, things that you can buy and deploy AI algorithms into. So look for a lot more of that. We're starting with gateways and cameras, and then we'd love to hear from you. What are the products that you want us to support? We're also making it easier to integrate into the wider Qualcomm ecosystem. This includes things like Qualcomm IDE integrations out of the box, getting access to newer and cooler models through Edge Impulse, supporting the latest developer kits, and then making it very easy to deploy these algorithms through container management on Qualcomm and other hardware through our partnership with Foundries that you're going to hear more about soon. So this makes us part of something that's much more complete. That's going to make it even easier to not just get started with Edge AI with Edge Impulse, but to really shift to large-scale production, right? Anywhere from tens of thousands to tens of millions of devices. And the technology stack that we've built for people is really interesting in that we're pushing the limits of what you can do with Edge AI, even at the algorithmic level. And this is something that we're going to keep investing a lot more on. And I want to give you a little overview of some of the coolest things that I find from our stack of models and tools that we provide. One of them is FOMO. So we developed FOMO because we thought it was too hard to do object detection. It was too high of an overhead. We need to bring object detection down to lower end NPUs and even to MCUs. So faster objects, more objects was our way of doing that. FOMO, though, is an object detector. We need to go beyond object detection to do something even more interesting, which is in the world of vision, it's called anomaly detection. So FOMO AD does something very cool. It lets you train a model based only on good data. So you don't need to have classification. You don't need to know what are the air states or what are the different classes of things you want to detect. You only need to show something that's good. So for example, a surface, right? Or a product off a manufacturing line. We can then train that model and show you anything that's different and unexpected. And then we can pass that interesting thing, right? The thing that was different into a much more sophisticated model, an object detector, or cascaded into a VLM, which we'll show you a little bit later. And I want to talk about some of the customer cases behind this. Why this is really interesting is that this isn't just technology that developers are playing with. This is technology that's getting deployed for real today by some of the coolest companies in the world. Now, Muller Tech creates plastic parts for the automotive industry. So they supply automotive tier ones with these parts, and quality is extremely important. So they've been able to apply FOMO AD to very accurately train on their own manufacturing lines with their own cameras and train these models to look for very small defects and different types of defects they've never seen before coming out that line. So cost savings involved were over $1 million already in a very short amount of time, better productivity, better ability to go and apply this technology for their very specific use case. We also believe that object detection, more sophisticated models are extremely important. And YOLO models are a little difficult. We have many different generations. They're not really trained on the types of data that are useful for industry, right? YOLO models are trained on COCO, and they might not work for an industrial environment, a construction yard, etc. So we've now developed a new generation of YOLO called YOLO Pro. This is currently in developer preview. You can go sign up to try it out. And this is trained on industrial data sets, real-world scenarios. And we sized it to go all the way from the high-end, very high-end of accelerated MCUs, all the way through the very high-end of accelerated CPUs. So you have a huge range of performance points that you can access with YOLO Pro. And as Edge Impulse as a whole, what you're seeing us become is an extensible platform for end-to-end development of these Edge AI workloads, from custom data collection all the way through to accessing all of the unique model architectures that we provide, open source model architectures, your own model architectures you can bring in. And something I'm really excited about is closing this loop. We're now connecting this into monitoring solutions. We have a model monitoring solution coming that makes it very easy to send data back from models that you've deployed, small model, for example, to get more data into your data set and produce better, improved models over time and better understand how your models are performing in the field. So this is something really exciting of where we're going as a platform. One of the coolest things we're doing is then applying generative AI to where we really need it on the edge. And there's three major areas that I see that are important with Gen AI. This isn't about just throwing some LLM on the edge that's magically going to do everything for you. That doesn't really exist today for the type of hardware that we target. But Gen AI is extremely useful for AI-assisted labeling and AI cleaning of data. This is an area we've done a lot already. We've deployed something called AI Actions. You can connect Edge Impulse to any number of extensible Gen AI providers and use those, even in chained format from different providers, to go and solve very complex AI labeling and AI cleaning problems. And so it's something you can go try out today. We're going to have a whole session on this in today's event. We're using Gen AI for synthetic data generation. So we do this for computer vision, for audio sounds, and very importantly, for human speech. So keyword generation into models. It's now possible to generate entire keyword spotting models purely on synthetic data. Again, this is something that's built into Edge Impulse. We make this really easy. And then finally, I think the really most exciting thing happening right now, and something I'll talk about a little bit more right now, is model cascading. How can we start with a on-the-edge model that detects an anomaly in vision or detects an object of interest? And then how can we pass that on to a much bigger model, either in the cloud or on the edge? Just an embedded world where we announced our Qualcomm integration, we did something very cool. We brought GenAI to the true edge for the first time in a really useful setup. This is something we call computer vision cascading from an object detection. So we had a YOLO Pro object detection looking for vehicles, cascading that on to a VLM. So we had a 8 billion parameter VLM that we brought in from the Qualcomm research group. And we could now deploy this for the first time on a Dragonwing IQ9 piece of silicon, because at almost 100 TOPS, this part can handle this 8 billion parameter VLM model right on the edge. And because we constrained the problem down to a specific vehicle, run this to the VLM, and then in a GemPulse, we've developed a way to go and program that VLM to extract information from the vehicle. And so here we can tell the color of the vehicle, the class, the manufacturer, the license plate number, even what's written on the side of the car. So super useful application for a lot of different vehicle industry applications. This applies to something much wider. You could adapt this VLM to do just about anything and plug in new generations of VLM. So this is something we're now working on productizing. You'll be able to do this as part of the Edge Impulse experience, and then we can deploy this either on the edge or cascade it into the cloud. Thank you, everyone. It's great to be here. Enjoy the rest of the show. We're going to hear a lot more about the cool technology we're working on from all of our speakers.